Genshin is a simulation, literally one of the oldest crack theories to ever come out of this game's existence. But what if I told you that this theory might have a bit more merit to consider now that we know much more about Genshin and another game that's slowly revealing more and more of its universal connection to Genshin itself? So, welcome to my first Genshin mini-theory video. Not quite enough theory in it to make a 20-minute video out of it, but enough to make something a bit more bite-sized for you guys. Alright, let's just get right into it. Honestly, I've never been that much of a fan of this whole Genshin is simulated kind of thing, cause in my opinion, you can just about make that sort of case for most video game universes in existence. It's just a matter of how far are you willing to reach up your ass to justify it. But I began thinking about how it is that it could be a possibility when I viewed this short from Ember Mystic on Instagram, who was showcasing the existence of a Teyvat symbol that appears on the flowers that surrounds the areas of Teyvat which are near the Divine Nail. This symbol also seemed to always find itself in many of Genshin's other mysterious locations and points of interest. Many of you would have probably recognized this symbol to have appeared in most domains, and you've seen the other derivations within other ancient ruins and most recognizably on Paimon herself. Now, for most of you lore enjoyers out there, a lot of you would have probably recognized that this symbol is almost 100% related to anything that has connections with Celestia, so there's probably not much more to theorize from there on. And considering the fact that the modern real-life counterpart of this symbol is called the Triquetra, which is mostly a symbol in Celtic belief that usually signifies the Holy Trinity of Christian faith, it makes all the more sense that this symbol would be the one that is heavily intertwined with Teyvat's literal existence of God. However, for me, I was more intrigued by the first derivations of the symbol that the video showcased, which instead of the more rounded shapes forming its three corners, it is much more triangular and is more of what you would find on those flowers that surround the Divine Nails, how those robots in Dragonspine actually look like, and the domain entrances. I find this one more interesting because the moment I saw those shapes, my mind just immediately overrode my eyes and I instantly saw the appearance of a certain mega creation, one that hails from another one of Hoyoverse's universe. And wouldn't you know it, it's basically the exact same shape. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Honkai's Star Rail, this right here is the symbol that represents one of their endgame modules titled the Simulated Universe. In terms of gameplay, this mode tests your ability to understand the gameplay paths available in this game, using blessings and team combos to fight simulated versions of story enemies and test your damage ceiling. In terms of lore, however, the Simulated Universe was created by a group of 4 genius researchers who are part of an elite group of academics named the Genius Society, which are filled with people of exceedingly brilliant minds in their fields of research. The 4 geniuses involved in this project are Member 83, Madame Herta, Member 76, Krulum, Member 81, Ron May, and Member number 84, Stephen Lloyd. The Simulated Universe was created with the aim of simulating, interacting with, and researching about the simulated existence of their universe's gods, called the Aeons. To begin with, the members of the Genius Society are all academics who have been selected by the Aeon of Erudition themselves, Nous. Now, it would be easy for me to just say, hey, same symbol and all that, and the simulated universe is capable of simulating specific worlds or events undergone by entities of the past. Genshin's universe is the byproduct of the simulated universe, and leave it at that. But it really isn't that simple because the bare bones of the simulated universe itself is only capable of utilizing existing data that the researchers have poured into the project in order to simulate an aeon or events of the past. And while the machine itself is capable of creating simulations that allows us to fill small holes of missing knowledge between those datas, it can't exactly make an entirely new form of knowledge on its own. This makes the notion of Genshin's universe being simulated seem a tad bit more improbable, and it is mostly because of the existence of the twins. Considering their memories of hailing from outside of Teyvat and having vivid recollection of entering Teyvat, getting captured by the unknown god, and thus finding themselves separated and having to go on 2 distinct yet eerily similar journeys, they become a variable that seems impossible to simulate in a world of supposed predetermined outcomes. However, this all changes when you now consider the Simulated Universe's expansion modules, the nature and how we the players are simulated within those universes, and the events of one of the latest Simulated Universe quests. The Simulated Universe's expansion modules are interesting as they are more streamlined into researching the ends of specific timelines and beings that once took place in the universe, rather than it being a more general case of looking into how to interact with the known group of aeons. This gives us the ability to better figure out and simulate to a greater detail on how certain worlds or beings either came about or met their end. In these universes, we the player are simulated into them as an aeon ourselves. Specifically, the aeon that the main group of the game is following called Akavili, the Aeon of Trailblaze, who is known to have visited countless worlds and encountered countless beings. By being a journeying aeon, the researchers hypothesized that we would have more of a chance to not only meet those aeons, but to also interact with them, which was proven to be correct as we did get to find out more about how certain aeons act just because they were simulated to converse as if they were talking to another fellow aeon. So in essence, the expansion modules have the ability to give us better insight into the history and knowledge of specific worlds and beings, while the nature of our existence in those simulated universes pretty much implies that this machine is capable of inputting ourselves in it as just about anyone that we want to be, so long as we have the pre-existing information of that existence to begin with. However, that all changed during the Antinomic Waltz quest, where we and the geniuses were going around a new expansion known as the Unknowable Domain. During this expansion, Herta and her colleagues were trying to see if they could revive and emulate the mind of another genius in order to learn about a certain weapon of mass cosmic destruction called the Scepters. These Scepters were the creation of a mechanical emperor named Rupert II, who is the recreation of another mechanical emperor named Rupert I, who also happens to be Genius Society member number 27. Now, the existence of Rupert I became the key to the anomaly of this expansion, because to fully simulate him, they had to simulate his end, and to simulate his end, they had to emulate the presence of the being who assassinated him. And that assassin was Genius Society member number 4, Polka Kakamon, also known as the Lord of Silence. To sum her up, Polka Kakamon is a killer of Genius Society members, known to have killed those who pose as a threat to the stability of Stariel's Circle of Knowledge, which is essentially the wreath of knowledge that allows the universe to remain determinable, as shown by the fact that her known kills so far were geniuses who seem to have broached upon elements of the universe that are almost scientifically mystical, even to geniuses. Honestly, I can make a whole nother mini video about her, but basically, since she killed Rupert I, obviously, the simulated universe had to emulate her dataset as well. But what truly threw everything into chaos is that the moment Polka Kakamon's name was uttered, the whole system was immediately compromised. And suddenly, that emulation of Polka Kakamon within the simulated universe began to speak directly to the player and our group of genius members. It had gained its own sentience. They never really determined whether it was actually Polka herself that logged into the universe or if it was that emulation that grew its own consciousness, but what ended up happening was that Polka was very close to ending the lives of the geniuses involved, particularly Herta. But after long rounds of philosophical conversations and many things happening within the simulated universe itself, and with Polka basically erasing the scepter system from the simulation, pretty much repeating what she did when she assassinated Rupert I all those years ago, the Lord of Silence decided to let those geniuses live, seeing as, according to Polka herself, they did not end up breaching upon the Circle of Knowledge. Now you might be asking, what does this all mean? What does this contribute to the Genshin is simulated theory? Well, for me, this is the occurrence that properly opens up that possibility of Teyvat being a simulated universe. Think about it. Teyvat's present timeline has always had some loopy start to it, and the variable that we thought was the one that made it being a simulation much less of a possibility are now the ones that I think make this theory much more possible. Remember, the simulated universe expansions are always much more focused on specific timelines, and now we know for a fact that it is actually susceptible from outside and inside interference, if the emulated data comes from being strong enough to have that type of sentience and influence. What if the current Genshin timeline is a simulated universe expansion trying to figure out what happened to the end of something that is in relation to Teyvat? What if it's a simulation that is trying to figure out why Teyvat ended, or how the existence of a divine being like the heavenly principles ended? Or better yet, how the journey of us, the cosmic travelers, ended. And what if our simulated self is currently being projected into the traveler who is going through their journey in Teyvat, while the variables that have gained sentience within this simulation are the ones who kept pondering about the truth of the world. The traveler being the projected simulation in this run of Teyvat can make sense when you think about the fact that the story of our arrival in this world is insanely jumbled up, with many sources sort of conflicting on whether or not we arrived during the Conria cataclysm, or was it only our sibling who witnessed it and then told us, or they only saw the cataclysm when they arrived and then decided to leave. It's all still very messy. The traveler themselves have insanely spotty memories about their past, the same manner in which the Trailblazer and the Genius group not exactly knowing about certain things that Akavili would have gone through, even though they are projected as that Aeon in the simulation, all because of incomplete data. Because mind you, Akavili's end in the HSR universe is unknown, and is only marked as disappearing due to an accident. But other Aeon ends that are known were able to be perfectly simulated, just like the way the Aeon of propagation Teyvat was vanquished by a group of other Aeons who saw their swarm creation as a threat. The loop of simulations that we constantly go through in the simulated universe can also be a clue as to why our sibling is making us go through our own journey that seemed to mirror their pathway through Teyvat beforehand. That is also why they are leading an organization that has a goal of making a device that seems capable of reprogramming just about anything, including the memories of beings itself. That might also be why the traveler's sibling is no longer counted as a descender and is recorded with an Irminsul, because the universe's programming has designated them as such through the available data and may have integrated their existence into the loops of research the simulation of Teyvat would have gone through. While I do think that the original story and universe of Genshin itself is of an existing independent universe, this theory might imply that the Genshin universe is instead a story of what existed, meaning that the simulation of the story is showcasing the end of something, someone, or maybe the end of everything. And the Loom of Fate alongside Conria's interventions are the forces that are trying to break free from this simulation cycle, to once again be a true universal existence rather than just a bubble created within a mega computer. It's also the case that the Triquetra symbol mentioned before, which we know is abundant in appearance within Teyvat's ancient history itself, was not only known to represent the Holy Trinity, but is also known to represent the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Maybe that's what our sibling is trying to tell us when she told us to go on our journey and learn the truth of this world for ourselves. To see that at the end of the journey, this is all just going to be a lie, or potentially going to be a lie. Unless something changes, unless someone can defy the predetermined fate that this world has been subjected to since before we even begun our journey. Also, fun fact, the Triquetra is also the symbol used as an icon for the weekly bounties and requests in Genshin's regions. And it just so happened that the knight that's in charge of overseeing this whole thing in Mondstadt is named Hertha. Just something kind of funny that I find considering the Hertha who leads this simulated universe project. And no, this Hertha is definitely not a reference to this Hertha. She was in the game before Star Rail was released. And that's about it really. I didn't think that I'd ever cover this funny crack theory soon enough. But hey, I saw that short and my mind just immediately thought of making this sort of connection, and it didn't turn out to be all that nonsensical to begin with. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and feel free to catch some streams that I'm gonna be doing soon over on my Twitch channel. Also, feel free to peer pressure me. I've been putting streaming off for so long that it's kinda ridiculous at this point. Well, until the next video, the name's Leafy, and I'll see you guys next time. Sayonara.